Doc, you'll know.
Hello, Roger. How are you?
Turn it around so we can actually see you on the pictures. You've actually managed to build a career out of radio, which would have to be furthest from your mind when you first got tied up with these louts in the pirate radio days.
Well, probably either made or destroyed my life. I'm not quite sure which.
I don't know, you drive a BMW, one of the top floor officers,
well,
guaranteed to win a warrant if you've got Roger Maclaren representing you.
Okay. Okay. Well, I go back to the days when, in more conservative days, when more conservative lawyers were saying to me, well, Maclaren, you're going to get struck off. You shouldn't be acting for pirates. And
They actually say that.
oh, certainly they did. And I was told by my firm even that if you keep acting for these fellows who don't actually produce any money because, as you know, the bankruptcy writs and default summonses and so on were coming in fairly regularly, and we were devising means of staving these off, sometimes legitimately, and I must confess sometimes not so legitimately. But as a result of this, certainly I've got involved in radio stations around the country.
But I mean, you are regarded by many of your peers as the doyen of radio law, and certainly with applications for warrants.
Well, that's rightly or wrongly, that's because I was the first there. And I've also got landed with some other crazy things, like, I don't think Agent Orange is exactly crazy, but that sort of thing,
Not legal cases.
Yeah, well, I think I'm regarded from my peers as being an entrepreneurial lawyer.
A fighter of causes.
Yeah, and that's great, but there is a limit to it.
But you enjoy radio representation?
Well, I know Derek would agree with me, but I think radio is a bit of a disease, I think, as opposed to television. And I think the disease is terminal. And it's getting more and more sophisticated, and it's getting more and more competitive, and it's getting more and more refined. And the people I see in this room tonight, for example, I think live the way that we all thought that radio should be. Unfortunately, it's not quite like that now. It's dominated by competitive interests and dollars and the competitive views of the corporation, which we all got our own views about, etc., etc.
Yeah, well, it was an area that Derek and I touched upon before, about the fact that that radio is not, it doesn't have quite the same people in control with a high creative input as used to be in the earlier days.
No, the broadcasters see it dominated by lawyers and accountants, and basically I suppose it has to be. There's another viewpoint which says that you don't sell the truth unless it's bought by the lowest common denominator. And even I can say that because I act for the truth. And if you're dominated by ratings, and ratings are what produces the dollars, and the dollars support your radio station, I suppose you've got to adopt a different approach. I personally think that Radio Hauraki, when it first got off the ground, was possibly the best private radio station that New Zealand has ever had. It was, not only did it have idealists, it had frustrated people from the public sector. It did incredible things. It has people, I think if everybody in broadcasting who was in Radio Hauraki was at the Mandalay tonight, you wouldn't be able to move in that room.
We were thinking about that before. Perhaps the Eden Park would have had to be the venue.
Sure.
When we first started to put this together, 4 or 5 of us sat down, over about a 3-hour session from on Lazare, we got up to around about 350 to 400 names. Right. And that was just 4 or 5 of us sitting around, just one thing leading, to
You could almost say that in many ways that Hauraki has trained a fairly large proportion of current broadcasters.
Well, you've got 3 or 4 radio stations in this room. I mean, you could split them off into 3 or 4 different age groups and different interest groups, and you could walk out, if you could do it fast enough, and within a week probably have 4 radio stations.
I agree.
tell you what, with some of the people in this room, you'd have some of the one or two of the hottest radio stations probably in the country, if you could put them all back together again, and if they could get on together again.
You remember the meeting at the town hall, Derek? It was full. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's
Chris?
right.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that very well. Roger, thanks very much.
About enough? Right, thank you.
See ya.